Acting in a action detection, detective movie. It's very interesting.
Well, acting in an action/detective movie was it was actually pretty scary at first heading into it because I'd never seen an action/detective movie.
Directing and acting in an detective movie. It was different because I had never really done a film that was an action film to this scale before. I mean, I had chase scenes in previous works, but never as many or with such intensity as this movie had.
You really had to be a detective. You had to find out what was going on, and I mean, it was very interesting. I mean, Gerard and myself, the co-star of the movie, I mean, we really felt like we had to do some research on the thing. So we hit up a couple of banks, stuff like that, and detective sort of things,
I'm not really sure because I was not really acting in the detective portion of this movie.
And I think it was really, we're sort of trying to create our own genre and, sort of influence some big names. And I think, Spielberg, I think he's starting to follow suit. And George Lucas, he's trying to copy us right now, but, we're going to get him stopped. And I think, we've got a good franchise here and we can market this.
It's funny you should ask that, Matt. There is a very funny story behind the scenes. I believe if you have noted the bloopers at the end of the movie, you find out that there was some really funny stuff going on behind the scenes. It was, as a matter of fact, it was a very fun time. 20% was probably serious shooting. Let's put it that way.
Pass.
Funny stories. Well, let me tell you, the lasers probably weren't the best idea. We actually got those out of a Area 51 surplus catalog. I'm actually wondering about the legitimacy of it, but those things were not safe. They didn't have safeties on them. They caused some injuries, particularly to me, and the insurance didn't cover it because we couldn't even show a receipt. And let me tell you, it was way overpriced, and they broke after like 3 days anyway.
There was a point in time where our guns, the guns that we had gotten from the Area 51 surplus catalog, were stolen by a group of terrorists. But fortunately for us and for the safety of the nation, those terrorists did not have the same editing program as I did, and as a result, they couldn't use the guns. So we were all very lucky.
We probably did about 80% of non-serious shooting. So you do the math, that equals to 100%. Anyway, it was, excuse me, could you repeat the question?
Is there a funny story behind the scenes?
Yes. No.
It had a very nice turquoise sequin gown, evening gown, which is kind of strange because it was a ray gun. Ray's a man's name.
Gun safety was a hard issue to address on the set because no manuals came with these weapons, and there's not a whole lot of information that's readily available to the public regarding the use and care of laser guns.
Oh, gun safety. Don't get me started on the gun safety issue, okay? It was addressed very well on the set, however. Only I think about 6 people were killed. So it was a very successful movie.
And also, these guns, they wouldn't fire necessarily when you pulled the trigger. It was more a case of when they wanted to. That's when they would fire, whenever they wanted to. If they thought it was a good time to fire, when you had one in your hand, for example, they would do that. Yeah, so it made it very dangerous to use these things.
Well, gun safety, we had to bring in some experts. Some dads of ours were hunters, and they basically, showed us the ropes, brought us to hunting camp with them, taught us what to do and what not to do. So actually, before we all went and filmed and did our shooting, we followed their example and all got drunk.
I believe there are many things that would not put me into a mental institution with or without a camera. So I'm pretty dang close either way.
Yeah, a lot of people, think it's funny, when they see us filming a movie and we're filming a fight scene, and you got, people throwing a punch, turning, cut, or someone just twirling around in the air. None of it makes any sense when you're watching the actual filming, but when you actually see the film, the final product, it all comes together to make, a movie, to make a fight scene.
Actually, I was committed to a mental institution because of the things I did in this movie, but I'm fine.
And, some of us have been institutionalized before, and we know what it's like to see people in those situations, where they can't separate reality from what is fake and what doesn't exist. And actually, it's a big problem now, people filming fight scenes without cameras.
The director was pretty good. Sometimes I had some fights with him, about how I felt my character should develop and how and what his ideas were. So sometimes we were at odds, but most of the times we were good friends. Yeah.
Oh, the director was great. Let me tell you about that kid. Matthew was very good. Matthew was a very professional. He wanted the. I forgot what I was talking about. Repeat the question, please.
The director, actually, it was the best one I worked with yet. Same director, but he was the best one I worked with. I think his life was going well at that point.
Director was amazing. Let me tell you what. He really knew what was going on. He had some good sandwiches.
He had been sort of edgy during McKinley, sort of crazy during the lesson, but during Hunter he was very level-headed and very good. He only tried to shoot me like 3 times, and Nick got like 1 black eye, which isn't bad at all. And he threw the camera a few times, had to get a new one, but Toby's mom was there with the funds to help us out.
The director was all right. Could have used a little more salt.
My favorite scene, I don't know if you can call this a favorite scene, but is the bloopers.
My favorite scene is jumping over the car, is when I get to run over the car. Because you just don't get to do that very often in life, and I think I'll always treasure that memory.
Favorite scene? The whole movie.
The hardest thing to do was to hold the gun still when you shot the lasers.
It was actually really hard to drive a moving vehicle in the direction of Matt Shillelagh, because it just isn't something you do every day.
The hardest thing to do was going an entire night without sleep trying to edit this thing and not finishing it still. Yeah, that was pretty hard.
Sometimes you drive a moving vehicle in the direction of someone stupid or someone that you don't like, but driving it at the director and having it directed at the director, which is kind of weird, but that was hard.
I mean, you press that trigger, it's a little bit of revolt in action. I mean, you do that thing.
Another hard scene was the chase scene with Nick and Matt, because they got to run through the woods and I had to just sit there. And there were mosquitoes.
I mean, we had serious shoulder issues after that movie. I'm still seeing my chiropractor.
When you're using laser guns, you got to be careful. You have to be precise. You have to know what you're doing, and don't shoot your friends because because the wounds that happen to people when they're shot They aren't always just physical. Sorry. Sometimes they're emotional and psychological, and people have to see doctors and take prescriptions because they can't even stand the sound of their children playing on the swing set anymore. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it healed. But and I'm sure you would probably figure this out, as would anyone, by talking to him. There's more of an emotional scar there too, but I don't think any one particular thing can be attributed to that, to his problems. I mean, he's had a tough life, what with being tied up in the woods for an extended period of time, and also, I don't think you can narrow it down to any one specific instance.
You just gotta drive on and, take what comes and know that, being an actor it's not all glory, and a lot of it, is guts, even if you lose them.
Also, with with Gerard's wound, whatever you do, don't listen to Toby. Yeah, because he's just a liar. Yeah.
Actually, about Gerard's wound, I'm probably not supposed to tell you this, and I could possibly get into a lot of trouble, but there's been a big cover-up of all this, and I don't think that's right, and I need to expose this. Gerard's wounds weren't real because the guns that we used weren't actual real guns, and the lasers that they shot were really just special effects.